Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show. Before I get on out of here, I had to talk about a story that's very, very important. And albeit indirectly, it involves Caitlin.
Everything we thought we knew about the hierarchy of professional sports is about to be erased. For months, the narrative has been about the disrespect, the hard fouls, and the petty jealousy directed at Caitlin Clark. But while the WNBA veterans were busy trying to haze the rookie, the biggest bank account in the world was watching. We aren't talking about a shoe deal. We aren't talking about a max contract extension. We are talking about a rumored $1 billion disruption that Stephen A. Smith just validated live on air. The rumors are no longer just whispers in dark corners of the internet. Reports are surfacing that the Saudi Public Investment Fund is preparing a hostile takeover of women's basketball. And they have identified their two primary targets, Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. It's a move that would pair the greatest shooter of a generation with one of the most marketable stars in the league, creating a breakaway dynamic that the WNBA simply cannot afford to fight. Stephen A. Smith warned the league. He told them that if they didn't protect their golden goose, someone else would come and buy the whole farm. Well, it looks like the check has cleared. To understand why this billion-dollar rumor is terrifying the WNBA front office, you have to look at the messenger. Stephen A. Smith has been the loudest voice in the room when it comes to the mishandling of Caitlin Clark. While other analysts were trying to play nice and pretend that the hard fouls and the mean girl energy were just competitive spirit, SAS called it what it was, jealousy. He went on national television and screamed that the WNBA was fumbling the biggest gift they had ever been given. He pointed out the absurdity of Clark flying commercial, getting shoulder-checked by Kennedy Carter, and being left off the Olympic team. But his most recent comments have shifted from criticism to a dire prediction. Smith confirmed that the market always corrects itself. He argued that you cannot keep a superstar suppressed in a system that pays her $76,000 a year when her market value is in the hundreds of millions. Smith pointed out that the old guard of the WNBA thought they could bully Clark into submission, forcing her to wait her turn. But they forgot that we live in an era where player leverage is king. Smith's validation of these outside investment rumors proves one thing. He knows that loyalty ends where the disrespect begins. He's essentially saying, "I told you so." The league treated her like an enemy. So now she might just become their competition. Let's really look at the numbers because this is where the loyalty argument completely falls apart. The WNBA has a strict salary cap. As a rookie, Caitlin Clark signed a 4-year deal worth roughly $338,000. That is about $76,000 for her first year. To put that in perspective, there are benchwarmers in the NBA making that amount of money every single week. The argument from the WNBA has always been, we don't have the revenue. They claim the league has lost money for 27 years. But here is the catch. Caitlin Clark fixed that problem in 3 months. Since she was drafted, attendance is up. Jersey sales are through the roof and TV ratings have smashed records set decades ago. She is generating millions of dollars for the league. And in return, she is getting a salary that barely covers the rent in a major city. This is where the Saudi rumor becomes impossible to ignore. The Saudi Public Investment Fund (PIF) deals in billions, not thousands. When they look at an asset like Clark, they don't see a rookie who needs to pay her dues. They see a global icon who is being undervalued by 99%. If the rumors of a $1 billion investment into a new league or tournament structure are true, the offer to Clark wouldn't be a salary. It would be an empire. We are talking about an upfront payment that could dwarf the entire career earnings of every other WNBA player combined. And when you put that check next to the WNBA's $76,000 offer, there is no decision to make. But wait, because this isn't just about one player getting rich. This is a calculated geopolitical move. We have seen this exact scenario play out before. And it changed sports forever. Remember LAV Golf? The PGA Tour was the only game in town for decades. They controlled the players, the money, and the schedule. Then the Saudis stepped in. They didn't try to work with the PGA. They bought the players. They offered guys like Phil Mickelson and Dustin Johnson hundreds of millions of dollars just to show up. The media screamed about it. They called it sports washing. They said the players were greedy. But guess what? The players took the money and the PGA Tour eventually had to cave and merge with them. Now, insiders believe the exact same playbook is being run on women's basketball. The WNBA is vulnerable. The players are underpaid. The travel conditions have been poor for years, and the stars are unhappy. It is the perfect environment for a hostile takeover. By targeting Caitlin Clark, the Saudis are effectively targeting the engine of the entire sport. Without her, the WNBA goes back to obscurity. With her, this new Saudi league becomes the center of the sporting world overnight. However, a league cannot survive on one player alone. You need a rivalry. You need a supporting cast and you need marketability. This is where the rumors involving Sophie Cunningham come into play. Why her? Why not Aho Wilson or Brianna Stewart? The answer is brutally honest. Marketability and demographics. Sophie Cunningham has carved out a massive following not just for her gritty play but for her brand. She is recognizable. She understands the social media game and she has that it factor that advertisers love. There is a reason why the cameras find her on the sidelines. The speculation is that this new league wants to build a dream team of marketable stars who appeal to a global audience. A duo of Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham covers all the bases. You have the generational talent in Clark and the charismatic tough as nails enforcer in Cunningham. They are the perfect faces of the franchise to launch a new brand. Stephen A. Smith has alluded to this marketing machine many times. Sports is a business and you need stars who sell tickets. Clark and Cunningham sell tickets. It's that simple. We need to talk about why Clark would even consider leaving the league that she dreamed of playing in. If the WNBA had welcomed her with open arms, this $1 billion offer might be easier to ignore. But that is not what happened. From the moment she stepped on the court, it was open season. We saw Diana Taurasi go on ESPN during the Final Four and warn Clark that reality is coming. It came off as bitter. It felt like the old guard was threatened by the new blood. Then came the games. We saw Clark get picked up full court, hammered in the paint, and knocked to the floor while the refs swallowed their whistles. The Kennedy Carter hip check heard, "Round the world wasn't a basketball play. It was a message." Stephen A. Smith exploded after that play. He asked where the teammates were. He asked why the league wasn't protecting its star. The narrative became clear. The WNBA veterans didn't want to pass the torch. They wanted to extinguish it. This environment of hostility makes an exit strategy look very appealing. Why stay in a workplace where your coworkers resent your success when you could go somewhere else, be treated like a queen, and make 50 times the money? But this isn't the first time someone tried to lure Clark away. Remember the Big Three? Ice Cube publicly offered Caitlin Clark $5 million to play just 8 games in his 3-on-3 league. $5 million. That is more than she would make in her entire WNBA career. At the time, she turned it down. She wanted to prove herself in the WNBA. She wanted to chase the championship. But that was before the hazing. That was before the non-stop media circus and the lack of protection. Now, the landscape has changed and the Saudi offer is reportedly making Ice Cub's offer look like pocket change. The difference here is the infrastructure. The rumored Saudi deal isn't just a side hustle. It's a full league replacement. It offers the legitimacy of a global tour, likely with fewer games, luxury travel, and no salary cap. It addresses every single complaint the players have had for years. Ice Cube proved that the market value was there. The Saudis are proving they have the capital to make it permanent. Let's switch perspectives for a second and look at this from the office of WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelberg. If these reports are true, she is staring down the barrel of a catastrophe. The WNBA is currently negotiating a new media rights deal. They are asking for billions of dollars from networks like Disney, Amazon, and NBC. Their entire pitch is based on one thing, the Caitlin Clark effect. They are showing the networks the graphs of the skyrocketing viewership and saying, "Pay us for this growth." But if Clark announces she is taking a deal with a rival league, that leverage evaporates instantly. The networks aren't paying billions for the WNBA without Clark. They are paying for the Clark show. If she leaves, the TV deal collapses. If the TV deal collapses, the revenue sharing for all those veterans who hazed her goes away. It is the ultimate irony. By alienating the one player who brought the money, the veterans might have cost themselves their own paydays. Stephen A. Smith has hinted at this specific karma. You don't bite the hand that feeds you and expect to keep eating. Now we have to address the elephant in the room. Anytime the Saudi PF is involved, the moral police come out in full force. We heard it with Elif Golf. We heard it with Ronaldo going to the Saudi Pro League, and we will hear it here. Critics will scream about human rights records and sports washing, using sports to clean up a country's image. But here is the cold, hard truth that Stephen A. Smith often brings up: morality doesn't pay the mortgage. When NBA players take millions from China, nobody blinks. When golfers took the Saudi money, the outrage lasted about 6 months until everyone got used to it. For female athletes, the moral dilemma is even more complex because they have been financially starved for so long. Can we really judge a WNBA player for taking a $10 million check when her current employer values her at $70,000? The fans might be divided online, but history shows that fans follow the talent. If Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham are playing basketball on the moon, people will tune in to watch. The outrage is temporary. The generational wealth is permanent. Let's go deeper into the Sophie Cunningham connection. This signals that the new league wouldn't follow the traditional city-based team model. It would likely be a tour model similar to tennis or golf. Imagine a world where Clark, Cunningham, and other stars travel to major cities, London, Tokyo, Dubai, New York, playing exhibition matches or tournaments with high stakes. This model eliminates the boring regular season games that nobody watches. It focuses entirely on the spectacle. By bringing in Sophie, they secure the social aspect. Cunningham and Clark have a chemistry that is marketable. They represent a new generation of hooper that is unapologetic, stylish, and skilled. This breakaway model is dangerous for the WNBA because it steals the casual fan. The die-hard WNBA fans might stay, but the millions of new fans who only tuned in for Clark, they are going wherever she goes. If she announces a partnership with Cunningham under a Saudi banner, the WNBA becomes a developmental league for the real show. What makes this rumor even more credible is the reaction or lack thereof from the camps involved. Usually, when a crazy rumor pops up, agents shut it down immediately to avoid distractions, but we haven't heard a denial. Caitlin Clark's team hasn't said no. Sophie Cunningham's camp is silent. Stephen A. Smith is fanning the flames rather than extinguishing them. In the sports world, silence is usually confirmation that negotiations are happening. They can't announce anything until the ink is dry or the season is over. But the lack of a denial speaks volumes. They are likely using this offer as leverage against the WNBA, or they are already packing their bags. And consider the timing. The WNBA season is grueling. The travel is hard. The physical toll is high. As the season wears on, the allure of a private jet and a billion-dollar backing becomes harder to resist. The silence suggests that the players are finally realizing they hold the cards. So, where does this leave us? We are standing on the edge of the biggest shift in women's sports history. Stephen A. Smith has laid it out clearly. The WNBA had a chance to embrace the future, and instead they let jealousy and mismanagement drive a wedge between the league and its savior. The rumored $1 billion deal with the Saudi League, headlined by Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham, isn't just a payday. It's a revolution. It's a message that if the traditional systems won't pay women what they are worth, someone else will. The Sophie and Caitlin era might not be happening in a WNBA jersey. And if that's the case, the WNBA has no one to blame but themselves. The question is no longer will she leave. The question is when. And when that press conference happens and the dollar amount is revealed, the sports world will never be the same. Would you watch a breakaway league featuring Clark and Cunningham, or would you stick with the WNBA? The answer to that question might just decide the future of